Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Conversation with Naomi Ackie today. The first speaker is Sharon. Over to you, Sharon. Enjoy.
Thank you, Agatha. Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Atos and Network Rail, we would like to thank you for joining us today. My name is Sharon Salmon, and I work for Network Rail, and I am a commercial analyst. I am also the national chair of our multi-ethnicity employee network, Cultural Fusion. Samuel Bryan from Atos is the co-chair of the Together Network, a network focusing on multiculturalism within Atos. We shall be hosting the event today. This is the second Black History Month collaborative event, and we shall continue our theme with discussing the evolution of the Black experience within the media industry. I'm unable to contain my excitement as our guest today is BAFTA award-winning actress Naomi Ackie. She comes with an impressive list of accolades, winning a BAFTA for her role as Bonnie, Best Supporting Actress in a Netflix production of The End of the F Word, winner of the British Independent Film Award for Most Promising Newcomer, and nominations for her role in Lady Macbeth. Most recently, we've watched Naomi in a prominent role as Janna in the Star Wars franchise, The Rise of Skywalker. Without further delay, I would like to hand you over to Sam Bryan.
Yeah, hi everybody. So today's format, obviously, we'll be looking at the evolution of the Black experience, as Sharon mentioned. That will cover off some of the past, some of the present, and then obviously the future. So Naomi, pleasure as always again. We'll just dive straight into this. I guess, growing up, what do you remember, I guess, of Black actresses? How were they portrayed when you were growing up, and I guess prior to when you were born?
I mean, I remember like my parents talking about like the Desmonds and stuff like that, and I remember growing up with like Little Miss Jocelyn sketch show, Green on Blondes, and they felt like they were the ones that were under like Black creative control. Maybe not so much the Desmonds, but like the sketch shows and stuff like that. In terms of other representation of Black people in Britain, I don't remember seeing that much, unfortunately, or not, at least things that didn't really like resonate with me at a younger age. Obviously like kids shows and stuff like that, you saw a few people, and how they were represented was often not necessarily the most positive, not in the most positive light. But as I've grown older, I think, and my interest in TV and film, but also theatre has grown. I started to seek it out a bit more. Obviously, like the States has their own community of amazing creatives, and due to globalization, I mean, they're you can absorb the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and all of that when I was younger anyway, and all those shows that they had. So I guess I kind of, as I grew older, I think I found more people. Idris was one of them when he did Luther, and Naomi Harris and Sophia Okonedo and Tandy Newton, and I started to kind of latch onto those artists as people who I would be inspired by.
So would you say that they were, I guess, role model like at a certain point in your life, or at the start when you were 5, 6, 7, 8, etc., or when you was a little bit older and you was in your teens, etc.?
Definitely when I was a little bit older. I think it's hard to, obviously there's so many very celebrated white actors in the industry, and for ages I could just easily like reel off so many of those artists and be like, yeah, they're my inspiration, but to be able to attach my own kind of career path to theirs felt ingenuine and probably maybe too optimistic, because it felt like that path was just not one that I would be able to achieve as a Black woman. So yeah, I guess in a way I kind of started to look at, like, in particular Naomi Harris and Tandy Newton and Sophia Okonedo as like these women who I was like, they're playing a variety of roles, they look like me, they kind of flip between theatre and TV and film in a very fluid way. But I mean, that's 3 I can't, like, I mean, it's not that many. And I'm sure there are many other amazing Black British actresses of that age, but of the ones that I saw kind of doing all of that, those were the main three. And it's kind of crazy to think, you know, of how little, even more than those three, there are and were to really like feel like I could model it on. So I ended up just kind of trying to instead forge my own path, because I kind of start to feel like you have to make it up as you go along.
Yeah, no, completely understood. And I think it's interesting you mentioned, you know, they look like you, they're Black females, etc. And I know in your BAFTA interview for the end of the effing world, we'll keep it PG, you mentioned about Bonnie and the character being, you know, complex, but also that it was a challenge, and I think you said you like scary, you like to do scary things and challenges. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I guess you probably look at them now. I assume you look at those people now, and you know, maybe in a different way to as you did when you was younger, because of maybe the challenges that they had, you know, in terms of character selection, film, or any entertainment selection that they chose.
Yeah, that's totally different. I remember I got this thing when I was a bit younger after Lady Macbeth, called the Screen International kind of thing. It's like actors and actresses to look forward to their work. And Noel Clarke had received it like a few years before, maybe 5 years or so. And there was quite a few actors of color in the room, and he sat us down and he was like, look, guys, this means a more effective thing now than when I got it. And it's crazy that it, you know, within the, you know, 5 to 10 years in which he had gotten it, how much of an impact like you have now as an actor of color or a racialized actor moving into this space. And the problems are far less about being able to get work, and far more about when you're in the work, how do you make it full of, like, how do you make it varied? How do you make sure you're not just playing the best friend or the mammy character, or, you know, the villain, or, do you know what I mean? How do you start to make roles that feel really layered and not just two-dimensional?
Yeah, no, completely. And you know, I had a question in mind around kind of, you know, look back to you know, the racial discrimination in the 19th century, early 20th century. There was pretty much no Black actors, actresses, to be honest, especially in Hollywood. But I'm gonna avert from going down kind of that infrastructure, etc., because I'm not sure you will gain much from it, and I think we'll get there in the present day section anyway. But I have had a question fly in, and I do want to keep this, you know, interactive with the audience, so I will quickly just ask it now, which was from Simon. What was your stimulus for becoming an actor, and as a Black woman, and do you feel your success provides a strong platform for other Black females?
Yeah. What was my stimulus? I wanted to be an actress since I was 11. So I think it's evolved over time. Initially it was like I did a show and people clapped and I was like, that felt really good. And then as you know, I started to really learn about theatre and stuff like that, and I loved telling stories. And when I went to Central School of Speech and Drama, which is the drama school I attended, I learned so much about how to construct a story and how they work and how to tell them in the different ways you can. And I fell in love with it even more. And then after that, it was like I had always looked at film. I still can go into a cinema, and that's the thing that breaks my heart the most about COVID, is that not being able to go to the cinema. Like when the lights go down, the snow comes up, and then like the excitement, you don't know what's like, that still gives me so much joy, that even though I was doing theatre and stuff like that, I was just like, I know that's where I want to go. And that became a whole other learning process, because it's, you know, between stage, TV and film, they're all such different mediums. In terms of performance, you have to really kind of change very slight things about your performance. I'm starting to get used to the idea of being someone that people, Black women or Black girls in particular look up to. That's something that takes a second to get used to, because I think I'm 29. I feel like I'm at the cusp of like self-discovery about myself and about just like being a human being with like a soul, but also just like being a Black woman in the world, let alone in this industry. So it feels quite strange sometimes to be like learning lessons about yourself and being like, damn, I really need therapy and stuff like that. and then like having like to being aware that when I am in a public space, that the things I say matter to particular people who tune into what I say, and that's a responsibility that I embrace and I take on, and it's just really going to help me figure out what stories I want to tell, why I want to tell them, and when I start to create my own work, which I'm in the process of doing, how I can engage with them.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, it was a good question, Simon. So thanks for noting it in. I think at the same time, it sounds like there's a lot more to come from yourself. You've got big dreams, etc., which effectively brings us into the present day, which I think I'll hand over to Sharon now, just to handle that section.
Yeah, thank you. Some great questions and answers there, Naomi. Thank you so much. You may have already answered it, but it's just looking at how the film industry is now. What is your view of that? How do you think it's changed or evolved in the present day time?
Definitely evolved and adapted. I think like I am so excited for the generation underneath me to like who are interested in the industry to engage with it, because I think from the work that the people that have come before me have done to my peers right now and what we're doing, there isn't an excuse anymore not to involve racialized people within the industry. Actually, more so than not, it feels like, and I was just having a conversation with a director I'm working with now, that actually you can't, like you really actually can't not have racialized people within a show anymore. And if you do, it's kind of strange, especially if it's contemporary. It's something slightly different if it's period or about a pointed thing. I think it's getting better. I don't think there's space for self-congratulation just yet. And I think that's the thing I kind of look out for is, it's all well and good having people on the face of it being diverse, which I just think the word diverse is slightly frustrating sometimes, because it's like, no, that's just the world. It's not like, you don't get like a pat on the back for like including everyone. Anyway, the kind of off that rant, I actually like lost my train of thought.
No, that's fine. That's all right. As we say, this is just a conversation, so it happens. But I kind of also would like to ask you something around, media playing. So a slightly different question, around sort of camera angles and dialogues. How does it, depict the stories? Different ways of. Can you hear me? I'm getting feedback.
No,
I can hear you, Sharon.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So camera angles and dialogue depicting stories in different ways depending on your race. Is this something you see within the film industry? Are people treated equally? And have you been happy with the end product?
I think it depends on the story. It depends on the budget. Also, that has a lot also to do with just being an actor and the difference between a theatre show where you know what you have and you know what you're going to end up with is that you can be in a film and then it gets handed over to the editor and they tell the story that they want to tell. You can sometimes, I've been way early in my career, I would do like scenes and then be told, oh, actually you're cut out of them completely.
Yeah.
I think, it's hard. At the moment, it's harder to tell for me around that, because luckily for me, I'm in a space now where I'm playing leading characters or supporting characters where I can guarantee that I actually will be on the show or in the film. But I think there is risk of that, especially, you know, with potentially bigger budget stuff, that there are decisions being made from a higher level that affect. The only way to combat that really is to have more people behind the scenes, more people on crew who are racialized people, more people within the kind of production side, but also really infiltrating the kind of offices of these studios and production companies and stuff like that, so we can really start to affect it from that way. Because at the moment it feels like what we've got is the face of that, but you know, often they're not. You know, crews are still, you know, mainly white, and people above that, and that's fine, because that's what it's been up till now. But it's really for all of us together in this industry to start really punching through those walls, and it's happening. It is happening, but the self-congratulation is dangerous, because it might slow the process when actually there's a lot of work to do still.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. And you're looking around, and the higher up you go, obviously that representation isn't there. So that lived experience, that understanding. But I'd like to understand how, we talked a little bit about, going for a role and, playing the game to get more work. What's your feelings on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've played many games. It's about.
I mean, I've seen you on the internet that you don't look the same in any picture. You look so, you're very varied variety of appearances, which is wonderful. But I just wanted to just get a feel on how, how that has affected your work, getting work.
Yeah, it is playing the game. It's very like, there was a situation once where I had twists like that kind of looked like dreadlocks for a really long time, and I was doing auditions and everything was fine, and then I had my natural hair, and the auditions kind of, I wasn't getting any traction, and someone I was working with, who I no longer work with now, we had a conversation, and I was like, what do you think is going on? And she was like, oh, maybe it's because you changed your hair. And I was like, what's the problem with that? She was like, it doesn't look as, put together. And because dependent on the texture, like what curl pattern the hair is, some people might mistake me for being mixed race, potentially, depending on the lighting. I mean, I'm blackity black, but like, depending on the lighting, some people might think that. I don't know why. Black. I've seen it in newspapers where they're like, mixed race actress. I'm like, no, both parents. I'm so black. But again, with that playing the game thing, it's like, with that person I was working with, she was like, try wigs on that make you look more mixed race. And I did it, and actually the audition started to, speed up. I can't say whether that is solely because of the hair, but I think as a Black woman, you are aware of the fact that our hair is politicized, and if we want to enter certain rooms, and I'm sure this works in the same in offices sometimes, the straighter the hair is, the more professional you seem, more put together you seem. And I guess for me, playing the game has been trying to like infiltrate that, and then once I'm in, then and I'm collaborating with people on a set, is to figure out how to tell that story while kind of staying true to who I am. It's so important, that again, going kind of back to the role model thing, is like, if young girls are seeing me do this and they're Black and they want to do this too, and they have 4C hair just like I do, that I'm not trying to hide it, and I'm not, even if sometimes, I just finished a job where my hair was like long and like dreadlocky, and I felt so good about myself, and I took my hair out and I was like, oh, but that's my stuff. that I have to do, and I don't want to necessarily for the young girls out there to see me struggling with that same stuff. But maybe I should share that stuff, because that is part of the story of being a Black woman, is like this weird thing about hair and curl pattern and how much worth that is attached to you. I've gone off on a tangent again, but yes.
No, it's great, because there's a lot of love coming for you through the chat room, and like we've got Sonia Hazel saying, loving Naomi's honesty about this topic, because we always talk about it as Black women, and I think now, because we are more open about it, we can actually talk about it with ease and comfort, so yeah.
I mean, maybe that is the thing, is to not hide it and be like, I'm strong and I'm okay with my hair just the way I am, because that's not always the truth either. And I think that's been a big part of the, separate from the acting stuff, the public space I want to inhabit is one of like, I don't know. There are some things I don't know. There are some things I haven't got figured out. There are a plethora of insecurities. This whole kind of glamorization of like actresses just like emerging and just being like, I've always been this way. It's like, no, there are problems with dealing with, how you're perceived with weight and hair and the size of your lips and your skin tone and colorism is huge in the world, like, but I mean, let's face it, like, it's crazy, and that sometimes can send you a little bit mad, and I think this industry is so much like a microcosm of a macro issue that sometimes you feel like you're right in the face of it, as just one person.
You may have answered this already, Naomi, and I will move on, but I just want to keep on the topic. And this is from Simon Attewell. So it says, excuse my ignorance, is appearance bias something that impacts Black women more than other ethnic groups?
Oh, maybe. I mean, arguably, I would say yes.
I would say so too.
I think what is to be acknowledged is that the struggle of living in a patriarchal society and a white society really does put Black women at a loss from two angles. In terms of the representation of other women who aren't white within the industry, it's actually less. I mean, I see more Black women on TV than I do Asian women, than I do like Hispanic women, Latino women, Black Latino women, let alone like differently abled people and stuff like that. So there are so many different intersections. It's hard really to say, but I will say that it feels like as a Black woman, my body is picked apart more through media than any other. I mean, like, you can look at 1 second it's like so out of fashion to have big lips and a big butt, and now it's the whole thing, but it can't be attached to a Black woman, because then when it is, it's something different. But it's allowed now on Instagram, and like even the natural hair movement, which was like so much for Black women with Afro hair, and now the face of the natural hair movement has changed to something else completely, and is now being sold through different giant conglomerate hair markets. So it sometimes feels like, like you as a Black woman have to squeeze yourself through all these holes, and are almost the things that you have naturally are picked apart and sold, but if you have it, it's not the same, and you have to follow these rules, but the rules keep on changing. So I can't really speak to like a hard and fast yes or no, and also maybe it's not about, it's not a struggle Olympics. Everyone has their struggles. I can only speak from my experience, and it's just hard. It's also anything, it's just hard,
Well, despite all of those, barriers as such, you're a BAFTA award-winning actress. So how did that feel when you won it? I remember watching that on TV and I remember the look on your face, but congratulations. We'd just like to just relive that moment with you.
It was really mad. I was living with my housemates at the time in Tottenham. They were downstairs. I told them to be quiet so I could lose in peace. And when I won, I think I just like they were listening down like at the bottom of the stairs. And when I won, obviously, and they heard me screaming and saying my speech and whatever, it was just absolutely, it was crazy. And I really genuinely didn't expect it because of the amazing women that were on there as well. And yeah, it's still quite strange. It's really strange, and it makes me slightly embarrassed. I mean, the funny thing about it is like having it in COVID was quite nice. Like I won it with no shoes on. Not a lot of people do that.
Great,
And I guess,
fantastic.
and you guys just just talking about award winners. I mean, I feel like firstly I have a duty to myself. Secondly, to my nephews. Winner of the BAT Awards as Best Actor in both Marshall and Black Panther in 2018. He had multiple nominees and wins. Chadwick Boseman. What from your view? Because obviously I was obviously a viewer, evidently. And my view was I see Idris, etc. So for me, I'm seeing more, I guess, black, especially British males, and obviously I was no Chadwick's not, etc. But when you look at when I looked at my nephews, they were totally inspired by Chadwick Boseman to another level. So from your perspective, how was his impact on the world? I guess how was that? And what about Black Panther as well as a film?
I am Marvel obsessed. Like it's my goal. And I have watched Marvel from Iron Man days, and all of that time, I never thought we would get. I just didn't cross my mind that we would get a black Marvel superhero who had his own film. So like Civil War, I'm gonna start geeking out real hard here, but like Captain America Civil War, when he showed up, I was like, oh great, he's just gonna be like part of the gang. And then they were like, no, he's got his own thing in a place called Wakanda. Like,
wow.
like the kind of Afro-futuristic, like aspirational thing that he was the king of. Like when he passed away, and obviously it was such a surprise to everyone. And like now, like what, like anyway, like I think there was something about this imaginative space, safe haven for Black people, that was so special and still is, that when he passed away, it felt like a real loss for the community, like the Black diaspora, of this imaginative space. And it's quite sad. It's like, can't we have anything? I mean, obviously, like, this goes deeper. This man passed away and he had a family and a wife, and I can't imagine what it must feel like to be the family, knowing that the person that you loved in a very intimate way, the rest of the world, or are grieving him in the thing that he showed and that he excelled in. But I do feel like he created such a space for other actors coming through. That you look at Black Panther and its success rate, it was huge. He was at the helm of saying that actually Black people can exist within a blockbuster solely by themselves and can turn over, like, I don't even know how much they hit $1 billion on that film worldwide. Like that, separate from the imaginative mindscape, there's also the financial one within the business. And a lot of the previous excuses, which just covered racism, is Black people aren't sellable. You know, there's not a market for that. Black Panther blew that out of the water. So I can only be helpful, and I'm aware of so many projects that are coming up for whoever should, you know, be involved in them, that have Black people at the helm, and that wouldn't have happened without him, let alone the other projects that he did that are incredible.
So you mentioned, you know, now I guess Black Panther showed that Black people were sellable. Do you think that the views of the industry, of the people who are making those decisions, have now aligned to that view of Black people are sellable, in your view, going forwards?
Yeah, 100%. I think, like, I've always been of the mind of, you don't have to like me, but you have to know my worth. There's no kind of, you know, we're dealing with old institutions, and I'm not just talking about Hollywood, I'm talking all the film industry, I'm talking about so many different spaces. And to be quite frank, I'm not ever looking to like change someone's mind about it. It's just like, don't get in the way of me earning my bag. Don't get in the way of me being able to buy a house or in whatever area I want to live in. Don't get in my way of me being able to love whoever I want to love. Just don't get in my way. You don't have to like me, but just don't get in my way of blocking me from living the life I believe I deserve. Not I believe, I know. So I think the good thing about when films like that are created and are so successful is that it's logic. You want to make money, here's the way to make money. You want different avenues of making money that is going to eventually make more money. Here it is, you know, like the industry is, and that's a good thing about it, is it's so much based on ideas and originality and storytelling, that there are so many spaces yet undiscovered, because since the like kind of rise of Hollywood, like, let's say from like the 40s onwards, has only existed within this idea of whiteness, and exploring so many different ways of that, and it still continues to do so. And now we're going, wait, what about the experiences of, I don't know, everyone else? Like, you know, within the horror genre, within the thriller genre. Now we've got like Jordan Peele, who's like making social horror, which is like, I essentially feel like he's been a part of creating a whole, with Get Out, like a brand new genre really that people are really starting to take up. I'm super inspired by that. And because now and across the world money talks, the proof is in the pudding. And regardless of how you feel about a particular type of person, if you want to make money, you're going to have to jump on board. And that's when I really do say, like, the people that kind of come for you when, you know, you get a part and they say, well, that's, you know, with the BAFTA, you know, there were certain people saying, oh, she only got that because of political correctness and stuff like that. And it's the mark of fear. It's like, oh no, the world is changing and it's going to leave me behind. And it's like, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, from what I take from that is that, you know, the industry is truly global. It touches, well, it should touch everybody, I guess, and it should be open and facilitate everybody's interests. I guess that kind of brings me on to kind of the marketing of the films, and, you know, what you see is the differences between, you know, the US, the UK, other parts of the world in terms of how films are marketed, because they're not all marketed the same. I actually got a question from a good friend of mine, which was talking about a particular film whereby one of the main characters who was Black had his you know, character shrunk in a certain country. So I mean, I think, you know, just your view really on the marketing of films would be useful to know.
Yeah, I know the film you're talking about, and yeah, it's unfortunate, and I guess that is the real struggle with, I think it's particularly being Black, is that although as a British person, and I'm sure in like many other countries as well, it's like, even if we're as progressive as we can be here, colonialism has had a huge part to ensure that in many other countries there is this fear of blackness and this kind of aversion to it potentially, and a view of blackness, black beauty, black value as something that doesn't exist. That's really sad, because you can feel like, I can walk around London and be like, wow, like we're really moving forward. I saw, I live in a part of London where I'm seeing so many like Black Lives Matters posters on like windows, and I'm pretty certain they're not all black people living in those houses. But the sad reality is I can go to another part of the world where black people are really undervalued. And that speaks to stuff like that, where faces are shrunk to diminish, or people are replaced in different countries for like commercials and stuff like that. And they don't exist. And again, it's like if you don't see that thing, and then the only thing you have of reference is like outdated views on what that type of person is, and there is no one, you don't see them in pictures, you don't see them in films, you're going to start building up an image of that person or that type of person that's going to be untrue and based on lies. I don't know the way around that just yet, and that's the part you have no control of as an actor. I can try my best to do my best job and be the perfect black woman, but then I can still like get
yeah. I think, to be honest, even aside from the media industry, film industry, entertainment industry, there's business, there's other industries as well, where there seems to be a kind of a global layer of kind of politics and tradition across the top that kind of creates this glass ceiling for, the actual good vibes to go and filter out into those regions to give them what they actually need to, progress upwards in terms of a kind of D&I scope. So, yeah, I completely agree with that. I, as I said before, wanted to try and keep this as interactive as possible, and we do have another question that I think works quite well here, which was from Monty Edwards, which said, in your view, why do so many black British actors go over to the USA?
Oh. Question, Monty. I think Britain is very interesting in that the image that has been put out to the world is that it's like, we abolished slavery first, and like there's no racism here. And, what are you talking about? Slaves weren't here. No, they were just in the Caribbean. they still had plantations. They still were very much responsible for huge amounts of our situation now. The fact that in 2015 there were ancestors of slave owners who were just finished getting paid reparations in 2015 speaks of the horrors that Britain are responsible for, and that permeates through every industry, I think, and it makes it hard to there's only so much you can do sometimes, and ultimately it's an island. It's a small island, and there are only a certain amount of Black people on this island, not enough to make an industry of our own in the same way that America has. Over in America, you've got Black-owned hair care and their own TV shows and their own movies and their own execs, and they have the money and the resources. Over here, it's not the same. We are very, very much behind. There's also a feeling that I used to have, and I still kind of do, that you almost have to prove yourself in the States to then be of worth back in the UK as an actor. kind of have to make yourself a star to then be accepted in your own home as a star. I think that's slightly changing because of the amount of films and TV shows that are filmed in London, in the UK. But yeah, I think it's a mindset thing that Britain still has, and it's a traditionalism, and I think it's linked to class and the monarchy. I think there's some weird mind stuff going on that really tries to keep a lid on keeping everyone in their place. America's mentality, although very, very faulty, don't get me wrong, has a kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps, money talks, if you work hard, you can make it kind of attitude that fails.
That kind of attitude of like, you can make your own fortune if you go. Yeah, there's still that dream, that American dream, I guess, isn't it?
Dream, and that allows for a space where, you know, people are a bit more likely to potentially, it's so hard to tell, but that's sometimes what it feels like. Whereas class matters more, I think, you know. And then we go into the difference between like middle class and working class actors in the UK, which is, you know, you've got a bunch of middle class actors pretending to be working class, and then working class actors who can't necessarily do the same, or you know, again, many intersections within that.
No, that's really great, Naomi. Thank you so much. I just wanted to maybe look a little bit just to tie in about the future of the industry, you know, and, you know, how can we sort of educate the masses on Black history, you know? Do you think current films like 12 Years a Slave do it justice? I know.
I mean, and it's not to at all. Who knows what I might do in the future? I might do a film like that. They had their time, and I think they were important for that time. But I know what I want to see in terms of stories around our history is exploring. Slavery is important to explore. I think as much as I love and have loved watching slave movies based in America, I want to see movies around slavery that are in Africa, that are in the Caribbean, that are in Brazil, where there was a huge amount of, you know, biggest slave population. It's kind of making that story a bit more rounded, but also just maybe not about slaves at all. And I think more so than like the kind of view of Black people as like, oh, they're robbers, or they're rappers, or whatever. I think the most damaging one is, oh, they are slaves, they come from slaves, and they are born into suffering, and that is meant to be their existence. Like, that to me is the one to push past. Like, I remember being in secondary school, Black History Month, and the lazy history teacher just threw on like Roots, or you know, I mean, or Amistad or something like that. I can't remember. All I remember was seeing people who looked like me being whipped on a boat and sitting with my white friends, and they're looking at me and I'm looking at them. And then one of them started crying. I was like, bitch, what? Sorry, I'm not meant to swear. Why? I'm sorry. Why are you crying? Like, why? Like, and then I'm getting upset, and I'm going home, and now suddenly, you know, that's damaging. I want to see stories that exist, you know, outside of that, or in conjunction with that. It doesn't have to go away. That has to be acknowledged, but maybe from different aspects now.
Absolutely, because it's as if, you know, that's all the history that we have to contribute. And yeah, like yourself, it was, you know, embarrassing being in that history class, and all it was about slavery. There was other contributions that Black people made. I mean, they've been here forever, you know, so completely understand what you're saying there.
And inventions, and let's talk about an empire, which like big stuff that came before, you know, Tudor times, and stuff that came before all of that, things that have been adopted and evolved throughout time. And it's crazy to me how rich that history is. And maybe people haven't really looked into it as deeply as other ones, because then it doesn't add to the story that is being told about Black people. If we were to really, like, in schools, and I've got a great friend who's trying to advocate for Black education within schools, it doesn't go with the story. If you're like, oh, hey, like, remember, like, the I don't know, the toilet system and stuff that we talked about, like when we talk about Rome, oh, that was there before, that was invented in Africa, like, doesn't match the rest of the telling. And I think that's where it feels quite insidious, that kind of stuff.
And it definitely, that education piece needs to be different, you know, it needs to be on the curriculum as a wider thing, so it starts from the youngsters growing up, so that it's part of their learning experience.
Just in Black History Month. Right.
Sorry?
Not just in Black History Month.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to also touch on, Naomi. So we've talked about, you know, past, present, and the future. And I just wanted to see where the evolution of the Black experience in media will go, in your opinion. You know, how do we create that positive change? You know, is there an anti-racism here? How do we create that positive change, in your opinion?
Like, I guess, and this goes for all of us, is like, you find your little pocket of expertise and then you try and contribute. Like, for me, I'm a writer as well, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be like a producer one day as well. But within that, it's, as an example, the stories I write, I want to bring in a writer's room that is really multicultural, like truly, not just all Black, but just many different races, personalities, from different abilities, different experiences. And then I want to create shows that do that too, and then have crews that are that. And for me, that's where my work is, you know, is to create space for many different people to start being able to share their experience within their expertise, and building that platform for them. Because I think I have to acknowledge now I'm in a place of privilege, and with that, you know, there is a platform, but I don't always have to be on the platform. I think privilege being like, okay, here you go, you go for it. I trust you, do your thing, and provide for other people. And so I guess the big thing is maybe just on an individual thing is like introspection and kind of looking inwards and being like, what do I have to offer? What privileges do I have? Because even as a Black, I acknowledge I've got many privileges.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do I use that?
Yeah, and I think when you're in that position of privilege, you know, you look behind and see who else you can bring along on that journey, and then it becomes that continual chain to make that positive change, you know. So absolutely. Well, we've got about 8 minutes left of the lovely conversation. I could talk all day, but let's grab some questions from the chat room. You seem to have a techie thing set up there, Sam. I've just got my mobile phone. You can grab some questions there.
Yeah, so obviously for this section, we would love for anybody to come off mute. Agatha, if you could ensure that people were able to come off mute to be able to ask their questions verbally to Naomi. You know, it's a potential once in a lifetime thing to be able to speak to a BAFTA award winner. So I think you should all try and jump off and try and say something to her, even if it's a well done.
It's done.
So
it's done.
Thank you very much, Agatha. Thank you very much. So I'll open the floor. I'll wait, and if there's eerie silence, then I'll jump in and just ask a question myself. But over to everybody else. Please don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
I think whilst people are mulling over what they're going to say, I'm going to ask a question, which is, you know, are there any Black actors, actresses that are rising through the ranks that you can see and go, this person is going to be something special? I'm sure, well, I'm hoping that there's many, to be fair. But, you know, what's your view on that?
I come across many. I actually get a lot of emails from like really young girls from like East London where I grew up and stuff like that, and they have the same. I see in them the same drive that I had, you know. And then I've got a lot of peers who are, you know, Sheila Atim, who's, I mean, to be honest, she's not up and coming. She up and went. Like she won a Laurence Olivier Award last year. She's incredible. I've got amazing friends who are directors and producers. The list is endless, and what's so amazing, especially amongst like the Black women, is that we all talk the same language and we're all just so on a mission. Like, it's kind of crazy because we're all just like, right, you got this, like, you got this. We've all kind of like set aside our 20s and we're just like, this is work time. Like, we'll like we'll chill and stuff later, but we've got a job to do here, because there feels like there's such a mission between all of us that it's really.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned around like directors and stuff as well, because obviously you're an actress, right? So therefore you're on the front line. People see you, right? You don't necessarily see the directors, and other than the name at the end. So it's like you don't know whether they're going to be black, white, or, you know, whatever race they are. So therefore it's quite you know, maybe there's an angle around how we can, you know, promote directors and producers and stuff like that. But I know, just quickly, Monty Edwards, I believe you have your hand up. If you'd like to just come off mute and ask the question. Hoping this works.
Right, okay, it's Monty
Perfect.
again.
Monty.
Okay, I grew up in Tottenham, close to Walthamstow. Can't have everything. But my question is, I mean, I'm a bit older than most of the people here, but do you think there's a story to be told about the Black experience of growing up in North and East London, and when will it be made?
I've got one that I am planning, actually, Monty, about my. Well, I actually want to do a story about the Windrush era, and tell a story about my great grandma, who spent half her life in Grenada and then half her life in London, and what that feels like. There's also, I was just doing with Steve McQueen a show called Small Acts, which is about the Black British experience through different times. From like, I want to say, like, there's one in the 80s. I did one that was set in like the 60s. Like, so they're starting to happen, and I think it's the more like Black British creators are given that space, we can really start to speak on our own experience.
Thank
Perfect.
you.
Fantastic.
Sonia's got her hands up, I think. Sonia.
Hi there, Naomi, thanks so much for being here today and being so honest in your approach and everything you're saying, because I think a lot of your listeners will really identify with that. So just a quick question around the film Yardie that you did. There seems to be two halves to that film. There's obviously the drug element, but there's an element that I really loved that I don't think has been shown on film before, which is the journey of Jamaicans coming over between the 60s and 70s. No, I hadn't really seen that on film before. Would you agree? What was your sort of take on that?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like, we didn't, I hadn't seen anything like that before either, and it feels like it's such a, I don't know, it feels like it's in the same way that it's like kind of romanticized, like, you know, immigrants coming in through New York kind of stories. There's so much opportunity for like different stories to be told on that topic. Because everyone has one. I've got both my grandparents on both sides are from Grenada, but the way that they got here is like so varied and so different, and that's just two different stories. There's so many about like West Indians and how they came over, and you know, my great granny, she had to like move over first and then like get one kid at a time, and like my dad, just like it was him and his little brother, and then like who showed up like 5 years into their life? Their older brother, and they weren't told that their older brother was there, and that's like the West Indian way, apparently. Like, you know, there's loads of stuff like that, which is like so rich, and I'm personally, I really want to start getting in touch with my West Indian roots and stories on that, because I think, you know, there's a particular type of storytelling that my aunties do, and like my sister and my mum did, that is just like so particular and so warm, that I really want to find a way to translate that onto screen.
Oh wow, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. I look forward to that very much. Yeah. Cool.
So we've got 1 minute left, just seeing if we don't have any more hands raised, so I think we can close off. I mean, it's been a riveting session, to be honest, covering both past, present, future. I've learned a lot myself. I hope that everybody has gained some inspiration from Naomi. Evidently very honest, and also very informative and articulate. So, you know, I think we can all draw, some, something from the session. I think it infiltrates every one of our day-to-day lives, no matter what industry you work in. To be quite honest, I think this topic is completely, pan industry, as you could call it. I want to thank both the Together Network and the Cultural Fusion Network from Network Rail for putting this on. I also obviously want to thank the star of the show, Naomi. Thank you for agreeing to this. It's been absolutely fantastic meeting you. It's been honestly crazy for me. Sharon, do you want to just say thank you too?
Oh, absolutely. This has been a real great session. It's been great just sitting down and having a conversation with you, and just thanking all of those people that attended. And hopefully we can invite you back another time, maybe. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I know that you're very busy, so that's really good. But really glad for you to be here today. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much from my side too. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, team and audience. Thank you for being with us today. So be safe, take care, and see you next time soon. Bye bye.
Thank you all.
Thank
Take
you
care.
very much.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.